So this presentation focuses on the following questions. What groups should you know about? How are they similar? How are they different? What are the platforms that they use? How are they spreading their message? What are the tactics white nationalists are using to recruit kids into hate? And what are the different stages of indoctrination? And what do they look like? I want to start by acknowledging that these are challenging times because most of us, particularly white folks, have been conditioned to see white nationalism as a fringe issue. It can make people question, like with all the other concerns that we face right now, why is this one worth our time? And it comes down to the sad reality that hate doesn't sleep when a pandemic arises. In fact, the social disruption, rampant fear, and xenophobic scapegoating that we are currently experiencing, well, it only amplifies it. As quoted in a March 18th Rolling Stone article, Eric Ward, who is the executive director of the Western State Center, reports that we're seeing a huge uptick in their rhetoric. A lot of it's happening on YouTube platforms and videos and others at a time where much of the country is sheltering in place or practicing social distancing. And ironically, it serves to give these individuals much more access to an audience than they otherwise normally would have. An example of this is highlighted in a March 18th Daily Beast article about Maine resident Tom Kaczynski, who's been producing a podcast called Coronavirus Central. The article alerts the public that while this guy seems to be just another person talking about the coronavirus pandemic, the podcast has consistently been in the top 20 on the Apple charts for health and fitness. And sometime in March, it actually hit the 5th spot in the category. And the article goes on to tell us that anxious listeners flocking to Kaczynski's podcast for more information about the disease spread may not be aware of his background. Before he rebranded himself as a coronavirus expert, Kaczynski was a notorious white nationalist, advocating for a nearly all-white monarchy in New England, with himself as its king. And finally, in a piece of reporting that may not seem related, but absolutely is, the Washington Post reported in March that retailers were reportedly saying that buying frenzy of guns and ammunition was being fueled by customers who were worried that people are becoming so desperate and unpredictable that they need to ensure that they can protect themselves. And as will become clear, the more we understand how the fear and scapegoating fit within white nationalist narrative and their tactics, the more that we are able to recognize and interpret their influence. And this is particularly important now when millions of kids are spending so much of their time online and socially distanced.